Hi guys, I wanted to take a look here at a trick that you can use in Desmos to check the graph of your derivative, basically to check if you've calculated your derivatives correctly. So what I have first, graphed up here in blue, I have the function that was given to us in example 2 of Unit 7, Day 5, the concavity lesson. So I've graphed that. And I am actually not super interested in the actual graph of the function. What I want to do is to check my derivative. So when I calculated the derivative of this function, it got pretty messy. I felt like that there were a lot of places I could have made some mistakes. And this is the derivative that I came up with. So this is a function that I came up with as the first derivative. So I'm just going to turn on that graph, and I've got that done in purple. So here, this is the graph of my derivative that I calculated. This notation here, if you see over on this graph, I've set up a function that has the derivative notation. Desmos can actually calculate a derivative for you and graph the derivative of a function. So I'm asking Desmos, graph the derivative of this original function. And I just want to compare what the derivative of the function is compared to the actual derivative that I calculated. So I'm going to turn that on, and you see that this lies exactly right on top. Like if I zoom in, it does sometimes do a weird asymptote thing there. If I zoom in, this original function and the derivative function are lying right on top of each other. There's no gaps. It's the exact same graph. So that means that my first derivative here is correct. So this is the correct derivative because it has the same graph as when I use the derivative notation and just say, hey, Desmos, graph the derivative of this original function. So the next thing I did was because this is concavity, I looked at this function and did the derivative of this. And let me tell you, that got to be a huge, big mess. I had like cubics times quartics and a bunch of like terms, and it was just a lot of stuff. And I thought I might have made a mistake here. So this is the original function that I came up with as the second derivative of my first equation. So I'm going to graph that. And I've got some weird stuff going on here with vertical asymptotes. This just doesn't look great. To check this, I'm going to also graph the derivative of the first derivative. So I'm putting the first derivative that I did check and I know is correct in a function that takes the derivative of it, and I'm going to graph that. Now it looks pretty good, but if you zoom in, you'll see here, it actually does not lie right on top of each other. So I was pretty close with this blue function that I came up with, but in here, you see that it's actually a little wee bit off. And I did make a calculation mistake in there. That was just like an arithmetic mistake and gave me just a very slightly wrong shape of that function. So it is a little bit off. So that told me that this second derivative that I calculated was not correct. So then I went back, double checked my work, and I came up with a better derivative. So I'll take that blue one away. And this is what I came up with after finding a mistake for my second derivative. And now you see that lies right on top of the red function. So this is the actual calculated second derivative calculated by Desmos. And then this one is the one that I came up with, and they are the exact same function. Like they're both graphed there, and you can see as I kind of click them on and off that they lie exactly right on top of each other. So this is just a good way if you're ever taking derivatives and unsure of how you did with it, unsure that it's the correct one, before you go on and do more work with that derivative, like finding critical numbers or finding intervals of increase and decrease or concavity or points of inflection, and you want to check that your derivative is correct before you go and do all that more work, then you can use Desmos and this little derivative function on Desmos, and it just double check the graphs of what you calculated along with what the Desmos says that the derivative of that function is. So that's an easy way to double check your derivatives before you move on, if you're when you're doing the homework for the rest of this unit.